So exactly how big is the giant mess in the Lake George, the Hudson River, and the Lake Champlain watersheds? Just how massively destroyed are the fisheries and the environmental resources where the public can no longer use the waters of the Hudson River and can no longer use the waters of Lake Champlain, and are quickly becoming aware of the fact that Lake George, New York, is surrounded by thousands of septic tank leach fields, also known as dirty diapers, massive brown fields all around Lake George, turning Lake George into a emerald green, chemical-filled, sewage-filled, leachate lake. On top of the brown fields of the septic systems, you've got massive discharges from the Sagamore hotels and lots of other hotels, and you've got incredible discharges of sewage from the municipal waste plants that circle the lake. Now, take that into effect, or into the equation, if you will. Take that into consideration, and understand that the giant flushing, the mega releases of water down the Poop Chute River, wherein the mills, the paper mills, the wool processing and the mining operations, and the village of Ticonderoga itself use the Chute River to flush massive amounts of pollution and contamination to Lake Champlain. This, on top of and in addition to the agricultural runoff and the salt and the sand pollution that's coming off the public roadways, creates a situation which has basically turned Lake Champlain into a massive dead zone. The fisheries have essentially been destroyed. The food source from the fisheries in the Hudson River and the food source from the fisheries in Lake Champlain are interstate commerces which have been massively destroyed. While certain bankers, certain law firms, and certain contractors that work for the above have been stuffing their pockets with billions for going on 2 centuries. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the speculators and real estate developers of these lakefront properties that rely on septic leach fields to market their $5 million lakefront homes and their $1 million lakefront homes is George Foster Peabody referred to as the shacks in many conversations with John Apperson and Irving Langmuir, the shacks of Lake George and all their septic systems, leaching and draining into Lake George. All are flushed and drained via the Poop Chute River to right in front of Fort Ticonderoga, Mount Independence, and Mount Defiance. Everyone knows that the son of the swamp fox here has been investigating and researching just exactly how massive this financial racketeering really is. You see, folks, when you process millions of tons of pulpwood that comes out of the state's forests at Ticonderoga, the state of New York itself is making a fortune from the destruction of the interstate commerce of the interstate fisheries. Now, to all my friends that are the tree huggers and the environmentalists of the Adirondacks, you've got to understand that Lake Champlain is a New York State lake. and a Vermont state lake. It's not just some backwater out in the middle of nowhere that nobody cares about, and it's okay to dump all this sewage, all these chemicals, and all these mill wastes and poisons and toxins into Lake Champlain. It's not okay. It's not okay to do it to the Hudson River, and it certainly isn't okay to do it to Lake George. That's a big problem on Lake George. The brownfields, the thousands of septic tanks and leach fields all around that lake. Where's the water to go? Where is all that sewage leachate supposed to go? And obviously the emerald green waters of Lake George, New York, well, the flushing of this garbage into the poop chute down into Lake Champlain, well, now it's exposed. It's exposed all over the world. I want to address Senator Dan Steck and Senator Betty Little down in Glens Falls and up there on Assembly Point. I've sent you letters. It's time to open all the books. It's time to do a complete investigation and review exactly who it is that's gotten massively wealthy from this destruction of the interstate fisheries, affecting the interstate commerces that rely on the interstate fisheries, and how massively expensive this giant cleanup is going to be. And I'd like to, kind of narrow it down to, why is it that the taxpayers should pick up the tab for what the bankers and their lawyers, their insurance companies, and their investor class 1% have caused? Why should the taxpayers pick up the expense for the people who became mega wealthy off of all this environmental destruction? Folks, I need no introduction. I am the son of the Swamp Fox. I am a Glens Falls Indian, and I am a Lake George warrior. The history, the photographs don't lie. I have published so many photographs and so many records, and the testimony and the eyewitness accounts of thousands that this matter is real. It's not delusional. It's not fantastical. It's very real. Ask the Attorney General for the state of Vermont. Ask the Department of Environmental Conservation of the state of Vermont, and certainly ask the governor of the state of Vermont, along with every major news organization in Vermont, and you can even ask some New York media just how real this massive fisheries destruction has been, not just on Lake George, not just on Lake Champlain, and not just on the Hudson River, but the Richelieu River is being massively affected. The St. Lawrence River is being massively affected. The harbor in New York is being massively overwhelmed with huge amounts of sewage and pollution. So the fisheries of Connecticut, the fisheries of Maryland and New Jersey and Manhattan Island have been massively affected as well. So folks, I think we'll leave it right there. That's plenty of information. Make sure you check out the links below. Visit all the photographs and all the records. There are so many records that support the substance of this video. It is absolutely staggering. And on that note, hasta la vista, and as always, God bless, and you betcha, definitely we're coming back.